Hey guys, welcome back. You've been asking, and it's finally time to discuss the CGC authentication of two pre-release Raichu cards. Yes, not one, but two, all at once. We're going in hard here. Yes, I know what you're saying. CGC, once again, authenticating something that is not verifiable, that shouldn't be verifiable, that definitely isn't verifiable, at least not with absolute certainty. Again, it's unreleased. It's not released. It's pre-release, but it's not released. It's never been released. There's no verifiable release. There's no story. There's no one story behind the existence of this bad boy of a card who's always been a shady, weird, underground kind of myth and legend. So, of course, they're going to jump in on it. Would you expect anything else from them? Now, I do really wish in the article here that we're scrolling through that they would have included more information, and by all, more information, I mean all of the available information, even if that information creates doubt or flaws in the story itself. I know it's not glamorous, it's not pretty, but it should be there. Why is it not there? I get it. They want to sound certain about this thing because if they aren't, it would be really weird of them to authenticate it. Put them in a little bit of a weird spot there. I do think the research is interesting and definitely important, and I think something that should be done. Bravo for them doing that. But don't believe these sorts of cards should be graded or authenticated. It's a little bit misleading. We'll call it misleading. If they wanted to present all available information, even make updates when more comes out about it, do scans, and not speak in absolutes regarding any of it, because they shouldn't, because no one can. And if they wanted to state that they believe the materials are authentic, power to them. Great on them. Congratulations. Way to go. Awesome. This isn't that, though. They're clearly pushing a story that benefits people who have financial interest in the card, and that makes the whole thing sound like there is far less doubt than there should be. They brag about it not being graded by their competition, as per usual, probably for a reason, and obviously are aware that the whole thing benefits them as well. So today, we're putting on the criticism pants. Yes, we have criticism pants. Before we criticize, we should definitely slap this disclaimer up on the screen for good measure. You know we gotta do that. Let's first quickly go through some of CGC's similar and or relevant previous blunders. Here we have Lamination Zard, as I like to dub it. We've seen how careless and horny CGC is to grade stuff that shouldn't be graded. This bad boy that they could have easily found out from the last seller of the card was ink pulled off by lamination, not an actual ink obstruction, I think they called it. Something stupid like that. Why didn't they even dig a little bit before authenticating this type of thing? Why wouldn't they look into it? Why is it that people have to tell them how to do their job? Again, if you're going to be the error grading company, if that's what you want to be, you have to do the work. There's still work involved. I mean, the other companies don't do it for a reason. Do you not see that reason at this point? This is a good one. We have, yes, you guessed it, chopped up cards. Are we seeing the trend here? Manually chopped up cards with scissors. Are we seeing the trend here? It's no longer the pandemic, and CGC has to make money somehow. They need to do something. They need to stand out. I mean, they have to make money now that competition isn't backlogged, and to the point that they had to shut down entirely. Where are all the free tendies? Grading companies, 3-letter grading companies that popped up, most of them are gone. They shouldn't have existed. They didn't need to exist. It was a temporary demand that was met by a bunch of stuff that you wasted your money on. Sweet. So, that money-making strategy seems to also involve working with shady individuals and error cards. So, for anyone who hasn't seen it or needs a reminder, this video here that's shown on screen involves the incident with Shinyvert, who chopped pieces of cards with scissors, and CGC graded them as miscuts. The lack of care and second guessing anything, just like all you got to do is like take a look at it and be like, hey, maybe someone just cut a piece of this card off. There's no extra card there, and there's just a piece of a card missing. Someone might have done that with scissors. No, you don't go that far into looking into any of this stuff. But you want us to believe that that you know the entire backstory on something that doesn't have a backstory, doesn't have a consistent backstory, you're going to tell us that that was the actual backstory. That's the real story. You know enough of the story to authenticate it. Okay. So, I don't know. From me, to me, this just tells me that they're looking to milk error dollars. That's all we're doing here. We're getting the headlines, that we need. People are just going to state crap as fact at this point because the article says it. It's in a case, so that means it's real. You know, people like to believe that things are real if they're in a plastic case. All right, well, it looks like we have to go all the way back to 2 years ago. We're going to take a look at Protostoys here. My God, 1.5k views. And no one was watching then, were they? Damn. All right. Well, let's just give it a little recap. Again, link will be in the description if you want to watch that video. But here we have it. The Protostoys, the prototype Blastoise, the Blastoise with the magic card back. The really weird, really fishy, really mysterious item that popped up. And I'm going to say that this is the most similar example to what we have with the pre-release Raichu. Shell, a WotC, Wizards of the Coast typesetter who could dick around with pretty much whatever. Could play pretend and put his name where the artist should be. He didn't know or even slightly remember the origin or detailed information about Protostoys initially when asked, in DMs at least. But all of a sudden, CGC and auction companies turn it into a well-documented story, conveniently exclude any conflicting information or documentation that shows an unknown origin of the card itself. Even better, Shell was used as a source for that information. Sick nasty, right? Even more sick nasty when it turns out that he owned at least one copy of that card and had owned multiple of them previously. Shell, yes, he was selling one of those through someone else, third party, in secret. Don't worry, we found out about it, and it wasn't being disclosed in the sale. That's a little fishy to me. So again, we got money involved. We got people that own copies of this stuff. We got people that sold it previously. We got a whole lot of vested interest, you might say. So we got conflicting stories and seemingly cured amnesia from someone who has more financial interest and potentially, than potentially anyone else involved, anyone in existence, any of the turtle dogs out there. Same with pre-release Raichu. These are entirely at this point in time unverifiable. No, they can't be. Yes, there are details that can surface. Yes, there are stories that can be told, but they're stories. None of it can be fact. None of it. I don't believe any of it. You got to take it all with a giant grain of salt. There's way too many other factors that can lead someone to tell you something that isn't actually true, whether it's intentional or not. If they want to call the materials likely authentic, sure, go to town. I have no problem with that. I think that's pretty cool. That's fair. I think we're gonna call that fair. Dangerous. We're encroaching on a very dangerous line when we toss it in a case designated for authentic and legitimately released cards. Toss a story together, and just happen to not include any details about the vested interest, conflicting information, etc. Where's that stuff? It's not in the article. I've read the article. I haven't seen any of that. It's weird that they left that stuff out. Now, reminder, WotC was the Wild West of bringing shit home. Tables of the scrap. We got scrap tables. Bring it home with you if you want to bring it home with you. People typesetting, making things that don't really exist, that weren't released. How many exist? How many did they bring home? How many were put in their pockets? How many were brought out on a pallet? Who knows? Who has a basement full of this crap? Who has a jillion million of these things sitting at home, ready to sell them? Selling them through somebody else. Chances are, a lot of these people are pretty private when they sell stuff like this, which is convenient that they're also sharing the story on it. So again, the scrap table thing is nothing like what we see today. You do that and you're going to be in big trouble if you're stealing from your place of employment. They don't just give out the extras. It's not the same thing. Totally different scenario back then versus now. Well, these cards and weird prints are cool and definitely a part of history. We need to pump the brakes on pretending or leading people to believe that they're 100% authentic and backed with exact unbiased stories on how they came to be. CGC recently authenticated some what I would call questionable Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which had some striking resemblance to known counterfeits. We have some people that were poking some holes in that story, in what they're doing there. Very skeptical. I'm very skeptical. I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh expert, but the signs, the things that I'm seeing with this, they're not good. They're not good ones. Again, I would love to be proven wrong. I hope for in the best interest of everyone that's involved, that purchase these things, that has money put into these things, that they don't get boned on them. So the thing that I'm seeing here is that most, if not all, of the research was done by people who have financial interest in them being real. I made a video highlighting my concerns, was told CGC would be putting out an article about it in the immediate future, in the very near future. It's been a while. It's a month ago. But a whole lot of nothing has surfaced at this point in time. So I don't know if they got a restart, if they're having second guesses, if they're verifying their verification to begin with. I'm not sure, but I would love to hear back about what's going on here. It's an interesting topic nonetheless, and it could be. Is it another oopsie? It's weird. It's weird to not hear anything. We got a whole lot of radio silence, a whole lot of nothing. I need to remind everyone, this is just a base unlimited Raichu with a stamp. These events took place 23 years ago, and there's just no way anyone remembers the exact details. This is cheap and dangerous. We're talking $7 here for a single card, shipping included. It doesn't even need to be mint, because they shouldn't be, right? It doesn't need to be. It's still going to be expensive. Maybe it's more legitimate if it's damaged. This is cheap and dangerous. Cheap and dangerous. There's no way around it. Bad things can happen with this. It's sketch. It's sketch. It was sketchy back then. It's sketchy now. And it's very troublesome that there's this much value or this much hype being pumped into something that can so easily be reproduced. No, is it like, oh, I can just like push the back side of a ballpoint pen and put it on there? No, probably not. But we're talking big boners here, big boner dollars that can go into this. Scary. It's absolutely terrifying for anyone involved, anyone in the future that's looking to pick this stuff up, regardless of who they're getting it from, where they got it from. The story is it's just not there. The story is not there. It's already been faked in the past. Should go without saying. Anyone that's been in tune with the legend of the pre-release Raichu, you'll know that was a thing. And it surely will be in the future. We've even seen scam daddies stamping the Evolution Zard in recent years. So it wouldn't be a surprise if this also gets that treatment, or a little influx of that treatment, with this kind of coming out of the woodwork here. Now, I've heard this story countless times. I wanted to make sure that I had all the details correct on it, but there was a collector who went by the username Football Julian who traded their entire collection for a fake pre-release Raichu. Sad story. That's terrifying. Someone trading their entire collection, and we're not talking some little dinky doink wiener baby collection. We're talking trophy cards here. We're talking 2010 illustration Zorua and Zoroark. Only PSA 10 kind of thing. High-end, high-grade WotC stuff. So we had a scammer named Shadow Lugia who ripped him off in a trade, faked the stamp on a very cheap card, which would have been even cheaper back then. Not that the $7 really matters. It's just a foil stamp, guys. The incentive was there back then, when it would have sold for way less than it has or would today. Are we seeing the current incentive for fraud? Are we seeing it out there for bad people to stamp Raichus in a similar way, with similar materials, which were and likely still are very available, even if they mess them up part of the time, which can happen with this process even when being done in the legitimate way by the people that are supposed to be doing it. They could just pick up some more base unlimited Raichus. It's just like there's an endless supply. It's unlimited. It's base unlimited. There's an unlimited supply. Always with this folklore WotC stuff, we have multiple incomplete stories. Even DJ Gigabyte, who is a friend, podcast, co-host, and business partner of David Person, in his video from 10 years ago, makes it very clear that the origin cannot actually be verified. We'll never know the actual story, the actual complete story for certain. It's just not going to happen. It can't happen at this point in time. Too much too much information. We have many details lost to time, many details likely made up intentionally or not, including the number of cards that exist. People have claimed 6 to 12, 8 to 11, and even that they were a full sheet of Raichus with many being shredded. Are we going to pretend that counterfeiting a foil stamp is just as hard as creating the cards themselves? Because clearly it's not. If collector's art can get approved, stamped on existing cards, we got collector's art here, we got a photo of it. We're not going to go too much into detail about this, but that is a legitimate stamp on a legitimate card that was approved, that was no longer approved. So is this something that CGC would grade? Are they going to authenticate this because it's a real stamp on a real card? But that doesn't mean that the origin, it doesn't mean there's a legitimate release. It doesn't mean it's a legitimate card. It doesn't mean it was intended to be what it is. It is what it is, but it's weird. It's in this weird gray area that you probably don't want to touch that unless you're very specific about the fact that you don't have the entire story, that you don't have all the details, and that it wasn't actually a legitimate release. You got to be, the amount of information that you need to put out and attach to something, which people still are probably not even going to look into. If it's an article that they have to read, they're probably not going to read it. If it's a video like this one, they're probably not going to watch it unless they're so ingrained in the hobby that they've run out of things to look into. So what do they need to include? What are all the like important details here? We got to take a look at like the trail of all previous owners. Should you disclose those owners? Should that be something that needs to be disclosed in order to authenticate it or pretend or at least mostly authenticate it? Or how subjective is the word authentication at that point? If you're going to document how authentic it is, all of these things are pretty important. That along with how previous owners acquired them, maybe put their story, but you shouldn't be quoting it as fact. How many they owned and or still own. How much did or will they benefit from that story being an exciting one, that story being without flaws or doubt of any kind, and how much of that is actually just being twisted by CGC to kind of like trim the fat and make it so that there is no doubt, this is what it is, we see this, so this is the answer. How much can you ignore? How much can you not include before I have to doubt everything that you put together here? All right, next, let's talk the XRF scans, or I guess the visual analysis and XRF scans. Scans of any kind. I think these are awesome to have, but not the only part, not the most important part of the authentication. Yes, we can get a material composition, which is a good idea. It's a good start. It's definitely a good step in the right direction, but still a long ways off where it needs to be. You can have the materials be perfect. If you're misleading people with a story that is not the correct one, without saying this is this person's story, this is the other person's story, this is the conflict of interest, this is you got to have all the details there. Otherwise, it looks like you're pushing something in a direction that you want it to be. You're making something what it probably isn't, and you're taking something out of there that needs to be there. So, way too much value is put into this, blindly trusting everything else on the page because of it, hearing way too much, I don't know science, but they did it, and it's definitely all real. This is the real card. It's super authentic because science on there. So there's a fucking graph right there, guys. You didn't see the CGC graph? Are we going to believe that Wansi was using a one-of-a-kind proprietary foil for these stamps? Yes, sure, you can get the composition there. These cards... yes, Pokemon cards at the time were game pieces and were not valuable. Not even close to what they are today. No one knew they were going to be the price they are today. You can have as many people tell you as you want that they thought back in '99 that they were going to be a billionaire. They're going to wait 20 years. It's going to blow up. They're going to be so rich that they don't even know where to spend all their Poké dollars. No one knew that. Gary didn't even know that. Gary collected a lot of stuff. Yes, he liked Pokemon. Did he think maybe they'd go up? Sure. Did he think a bunch of the other stuff that he collected would go up? Probably also. But he's just a collector. And it happened to go up. Yes, it was popular. Yes, it got popular again. Yes, it's still super popular. Even now that we've kind of retraced from the big old bang. So, back onto the foil. There was no special top secret foil. they almost certainly just used a product, material that was tested, functional, available, and inexpensive, probably used for something else. They didn't have NASA create some kind of super tech mega space foil with certain rare earth elements that people would be able to use for authentication on a handful of cards that were probably just a joke by employees, so they could say, hey, look, I got a stamp on something that's not supposed to have one, guys. That's probably all it was. That's the most likely scenario here. Yes, is that cool? Is it cool that they were messing around with crap? Is it cool that Shell put his name as the artist on some cards? I guess. Do I want a Shell Sarah Angel? No, not really. A Sarah Angel? No, I don't want one of those. Maybe someone does. It's weird. So, you got to be absolutely kidding yourself if you think that this was some kind of super secret proprietary foil and not available somewhere else, that there isn't more of it in existence, or that it hasn't changed since then. All right. So through stories, which often get skewed every time they are told over time, like a game of telephone, but also due to the fact that they weren't documented in detail or recorded because they weren't significant at the time, no one working at WotC was treating Pokemon card creation like well-documented scientific research. It just wasn't happening. They didn't have lab coats on. Well, maybe they had lab coats on. Maybe they had lab coats on. Maybe they had a journal of some kind. But chances are they're not keeping some kind of crazy scientific log about everything they've done, about every single decision that was made, about every silly little thing that someone decided to stamp an extra card, any of that stuff. They were mass producing trading cards for children. Reminder, guys. Reminder. Years ago. We're talking 23 years ago, when you were working in a factory or working in development of creating a children's trading card game. You do not know every detail. That's why the stories are all different here. Same thing with the first edition base case. You can ask every WotC employee you want about the specifics, a lot of these details. They're either foggy on it or they don't remember the vast majority of the intricate details. They're not going to remember the stop tape, if there was a period at the end, if there was certain capitalization, the spacing between them. That shit wasn't important back then. And to think that they would remember it after 23 years, even if they were told at the time by someone that traveled back in time and they're like, please remember the distance between the stop signs on your tape. Please, whatever you do, do not forget that it is exactly 23.3 centimeters between each stop sign. It's going to be important. There's going to be a fake case put together by a bunch of wiener babies. They're going to put G.I. Joe cards inside. They're going to try to put it on a marketplace that is called liquid, that's not liquid, and they're going to try to pawn it off to people in fractional shares. I know, you don't know what any of that means, but trust me, it's happening. It's going to happen. So, mass producing trading cards, guys, and we have the sightings, all of the sightings. They do cite the sightings in the articles here on the CGC article. And again, they're not all there. Not all the information is there, and they're making it sound too certain, more certain than what the actual person would actually tell. Probably, it's pushed. They're pushing a narrative here. Well, okay, we'll give them the benefit. Maybe they're accidentally pushing a narrative because they don't have all the information or they didn't look into it enough. This little comment here where it says Mike Boozer has also confirmed CGC cards hypothesis regarding the origin of these extraordinary cards, including the sheet they almost certainly originated from, which proves they were accidentally created. No, it doesn't. It does not prove that they were accidentally created. Did he? What are you talking about? Maybe they came from that sheet. Maybe some of them came from that sheet. Maybe others didn't. Why does the 8 not have the corners that the pre-release Clefable had? But the 5.5 does. Did they create more later? Were there more laters? Did they stamp more later? Were the employees like, hey, maybe it's a good idea. Look how popular these pre-release Raichus are. Look at the memes. Back before the memes even existed. Were they memes back then? Do they still count as memes if the meme word didn't exist? Regardless, did they make more? Did someone decide, hey, I'm going to make some for myself? Maybe that's where the 8 came from. We don't know. We might never know. And again, if you haven't seen Rusty's video on it, he goes into detail. He has documentation from a WotC production manager who says that the pre-release Raichus were an entire sheet of Raichus, and that some of them were discarded. So where is that? Why is that not in the article here? Do they not? I have a hard time believing that CGC doesn't have Rusty on speed dial if they're going to partner with him on stuff, but they didn't ask him for his opinion on any of this stuff. I don't see him cited anywhere in here. So it's weird that they wouldn't just like reach out to him and say, hey, have you heard anything about this? So is that CGC being lazy, or are they just purposely leaving that part out because it's conflicting information with like the story that they pieced together here? I don't know. I really don't. It could be either. Maybe they'll make a little amendment here and they'll say, you know what? We don't know anything about the actual release of this because all of the information doesn't match up. What we do know is that the stamp looks like it's a real Clefable stamp, and it looks like it's a real Base Unlimited Raichu that, yes, you probably could buy one for $10, maybe $7 if you want to heavily played. On screen here is the video I was talking about, the TCA Gaming, the Rusty video, where he talks about that production manager and their correspondences, their information regarding, their conflicting information regarding that sheet, the sheet that would have been all Raichus and not the other sheet that we're all speculating on here, that CGC is speculating on. The fact that people want to believe that this was the reason, the accidental. I don't think it accidentally happened necessarily. Maybe it did for some of them. Maybe it didn't for others. But it sounds like there might be more pre-release Raichus out there. So this is the sheet. This is the sheet that everyone wants to refer to. And this is the one that everyone's like, oh yeah, it must have been a mistake. Instead of just stamping that one bad boy up here on the left, the Clefable, the pre-release Clefable, they decided to stamp 2 of them. Maybe they accidentally stamped 2 of them. I don't know if I'm buying that. And then with the 8 that doesn't have the corners similar to the Clefable, I don't know. But you got to send all this stuff out. I don't know if I buy the story with the themed decks sheets to begin with. Like, it seems weird to me that they would send full sheets to get one card stamped that are from very different products, the rest being from the starter decks or the battle decks, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't really seem like it, but maybe it's a better option than having 2 blank spots on a sheet in terms of cost savings. But to me, having full sheets of a promo card and stamping those would be easier and more cost effective, especially if they are sent elsewhere to have the stamp applied to them. Why is the Raichu on there to begin with? Who knows? No one knows. We don't know the answer to that. Can anyone answer that? No. Because we don't know the story. We probably never will. Was there supposed to be a pre-release Raichu? Probably not. Probably not. I don't think so. But I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be for something else. Who knows? But it's right there. It's next to the Clefable. But we can't run with that story if we don't know the actual reason for it. And then we can't actually say that this is the reason. We can't say it was accidentally stamped and not stamped on purpose for someone to be able to show it off at events, which seemingly is what was going on there. And then we don't know. Maybe there was a sheet. Maybe there were these ones that were accidentally. And then maybe there's a lot of maybes. Are you seeing the amount of maybes here? No one knows. So CGC, please don't fucking pretend you know, because you don't know. We don't know. They don't know. The people that were involved, the people that own the fucking cards don't know. How do you know? You don't. No one knows. No one will ever know. So as I mentioned, for anyone who isn't familiar, the pre-release Clefable has sketchy corners. They all have sketchy corners. They're hard to grade. They have the same issues. Always. Every single time. Go look. Go take a look at any graded copy of it. You're going to see it. So we have the CGC 5.5, which has these corners. And again, that is the one that they're deeming was an actual example, was the one that was shown off by Mr. Boozer, Mike Boozer, the guy that was showing off multiple copies. Again, story from him. Does he still have copies? Would love to know. Kind of important information if you're going to take his word for something. Kind of important information to include in an article if you're going to spout his information as fact or push a narrative with that information. You need to know if he still has copies. Otherwise, you know, he could tell the most magical story of time. You could say that Arceus came down from the future and he rubbed his dick all over the Raichu card, and the pre-release stamp just magically it became part of it. So whether or not they're telling the story as it was an accident for the sake of making it more desirable, because it's probably more desirable. What sounds better to you guys? If employees were dicking around and they were like, oh, we can stamp whatever we want. Let's just stamp it and let's put pre-release all over the card, top and bottom, all over, everywhere. Look how cool this is. We're dicking around at work instead of doing our jobs. Or is it more sexy if they're like, oh, this rare recursion happened. There was a time shift, matter all shifted to the side, and it was accidentally Raichu'd. And yes, instead of those Raichus being discarded, we saved them from the graces of the dumpster and the shredder, from the scrap table. I don't know. Like, I think we're overselling what the story is here, because it's gonna sell the card. It's gonna make the card more valuable if it's an attractive story. Saying that people were dicking around at work, it's like, oh yeah, this Subway artist, he put, oh, you should see how many slices of bacon he put on this motherfucker. It is more bacon than sub. Okay, great. I mean, someone will probably eat it for the memes, but for the sake of like, that's the same kind of scenario here. We're looking at something that might not be what they're telling you. Just, you gotta, all of these stories, all of them, 23 years ago, I can't tell you what I was doing 23 years ago. Something. Probably something inappropriate. But I was doing something. So, did the 8 come from somewhere else? Was it an additional fuck around fest by the employees? I don't know. I wasn't there. Do they know? Do they remember? Do they recall? Would they tell you if they did? Would they tell you that there were more copies if there were more copies? Would they tell you that they still own copies if they still own copies? Or would that be like a secret thing? Would that be like oh, we don't tell anyone. We don't want to ruin the market. We don't want to make this mysterious card less mysterious. That would hurt our finances and CGC's story. So that, I don't know. I don't like any of this stuff for that reason. If it's error cards, if it's like test print stuff, if it's sheets that are cut up, if it's stuff like that, be very aware of who has financial interest is the biggest thing. Same with the test prints, with the disco sheets and all that stuff being cut up. Be very aware. The people that own these, the grading company that graded them, the sketchy things, if they've done sketchy things before, you have to take that all into consideration. That is why I am so skeptical on any of this stuff, on the information that they have, on what has been withheld from the documentation, their article showing how super duper real it is. All of it. Very sketchy. Extremely sketchy. The grain of salt that is involved here is real. So, did the 8 come from somewhere else? Was the 5.5 part of that sheet and accidentally stamped? Was the 8 part of an ongoing pre-release clefable joke where employees stamped more of them? I mean, they had access to the stamp, right? If someone wanted to stamp more, clearly somebody could have stamped more. And then we have that second copy that has like a note, but there's no story about how that one came to be. The people conveniently just don't know how those more of them were stamped, or that one was stamped in particular, and why that one was in better condition and it didn't have the corners that were like that. Was it stamped later because employees found out that they were desirable and or valuable? And up until what point? Or does anyone have the ability to stamp those now? Does anyone have that equipment at this point in time? Does anyone know what the materials are? Are the materials just very easy to come by? And then like now we had to be concerned about this being like stamped in a super recently, and for the sake of like imitating what they did back in '99. There's a lot of bad things that can go on here. There's a lot of like doubt that should be involved with this, that they're trying to kind of weed out. They're trying to eliminate by putting out an article. And you don't put the blinders on, guys. Is it cool to learn this stuff? Is it cool to hear the stories? But yes, they're just stories. Any one of them can be wrong. Whether they're purposely lying or not, whether they're doing it for financial reasons. There's a lot of financial interest in these. Believe me. We got David Person who wants one of each English card. He's got 2 of them. Do you think he's not going to sell one of them? Did he say? Is he not? Dave, are you selling one of these? Are there going to be more of these popping up? Again, they're not going to tell you if there's more copies. They'll sign NDAs, so they don't have to tell you anything. Now, there's nothing wrong with having 2 cards and selling one of them, but the whole thing just reeks of like trying to make some bucks. The same thing with the Protostoys. The whole going on about how, oh, the one without the back on it, the white back Protostoys, that was the one that was on the road. It was going to card shops to display and to show off to all the trading card shops, all the LGSs. Like, it's just like all of this information, all this story that is just like, do they actually remember it? And who's telling the story? Who is telling the story is the most important thing here. So let's get a little conclusion action going on here. We have CGC authenticating and attaching a story to all copies of this that they deem authentic. Even though there are many flaws in the history, they have outlined whether that is to add credibility or shows the lack of research done on their end. All copies of this card are unverifiable. It doesn't matter how many different techniques you use to verify the origin of it. It doesn't matter how many stories you hear, even if they're conflicting or not conflicting. The origin of this stuff should not be stated as fact. Even if coming straight from a WotC employee and the materials match that of the Clefable stamp that is supposed to be the one that they accidentally did onto this. Was it accidental? We don't know. We'll never know. It's an unlimited Raichu. Bring it back down to earth, guys. Unlimited Raichu. Just leave it as, CGC, just leave it as authentic materials. Or we have determined that, or we believe that the materials used were authentic and that this came from a former WotC employee. But I don't even know how you fit all that. All the details that need to be there, all the transparency that needs to be there, it probably doesn't fit on a label. Show who and where the cards came from. Yes, I know some people are not going to want to step forward. They're not going to want to say, hey, it was me. I worked at work and I was working and I was fucking around and I brought stuff home with me and now I'm selling it for a lot of money and I still have some. Anything less of the entire details that they have is kind of disingenuous. Anything that's lacking or that's contradictory to the story that they're putting together, not including that. I know, not sexy to say, hey, this person told us this, but this other person that was probably more hands-on told us something completely different. We don't know what the story was, but here is all the pieces. Make your own decision, make your own, use your own discretion. How real is this? This person here has 6 more copies. They're looking to retire early. Or late, I guess. I mean, if they were working back then, they're probably a little bit older now. Very dangerous for CGC to attach their name to this. I'm sure they know that. They know this from all the previous examples that we looked at in this video, from the mistakes that they've made, from the careless mistakes that they've made, grading things that are just outside of the territory of should be graded. Whether it's scissored cards, whether it's cards that have ink removed because it was laminated and someone pulled it off, some kid laminated that thing or had their parents laminate it so that it could go through the washing machine and it wouldn't get damaged. Most importantly, very dangerous for anyone that is looking to purchase these in the future. Yes, it's probably a cash grab more than anything else. And just remember, it's very possible that these could have been faked by the parties involved or will be in the future. We don't know how many exist. There could be a lot of them. There could be a ton that surface. If more were accidentally or purposely made back in the day. Again, if they had access to the equipment, they had the ability to do so. There's multiple stories of it happening. Some accidents, some not accidents. It's possible we see more in the future that past this half-assed thing CGC is deeming as authentication. But that's all I got for you guys. The whole thing is just, it leaves a bad taste. It's almost a cool thing. It's almost an awesome thing. But then they push it a little too hard. And then it just reeks of like people looking to line their pockets. Both CGC and the people that own copies of this stuff. So that's it. That's all for today. Join the Discord. See you next time. Bye.